As Christmas is approaching, we must recognize that not everybody will enjoy this time. For some of us, this time it can be marked by pain and sorrow. This festive atmosphere around us of happiness and joy may be in contrast with the struggles that some people may face during this time, leaving them wondering where to find hope in the midst of their sorrow and pain. Today, I would like to share with you some steps we can take during the Christmas time to find hope for our lives. The first principle that I would like to share with you is that we must acknowledge the reality of sorrow. You see, the gospel reminds us that Christmas does not exempt us from the challenges that life can bring. And we must be very careful to find a reason of hope and joy in something that can hold, even when the storms arise in our lives. Today I will share this story with you, narrated in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 2, verse 16 and 18. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious. And he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. The evangelist Matthew compares the murder of this innocent baby boys in Bethlehem to the Rachel weeping in Ramah, where Jewish captives assembled before they were deported to Babylon during the time of the prophet Jeremiah. As exiles were forced away, their mothers were weeping in Ramah. Just as Rachel wept for her children, many among us bear the weight of personal losses, disappointments, and heartaches. Let us remember that Jesus himself entered a broken world, experienced the full spectrum of human sufferings. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, he was a man of sorrow. Friends, Jesus understands our pain, having walked the pain of sorrow during his earthly life. Many of us also know someone who has battled or is battling sadness, grief, and sorrow. Memories that haunt, anxiety that paralyzes, pain that lingers after loss of a dear ones, trust that was broken, relationship that suffers, darkness that surrounds people. It's so evident in many lives today. So we cannot always give a reasonable answer to those who are suffering in this way, but we can always walk alongside with them. As Romans chapter 12 verse 15 says, we are called to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. You see, we cannot give all the answers, but we can provide support, lend a listening ear, and allow God's grace to heal the brokenhearted. So, as we continue in principle number 2, we must recognize the spiritual conflict that is going on. You see, this passage reminds us that it is impossible to avoid the spiritual conflict raging around us between good and evil. You see, these Jewish boys did not deserve to die at the hands of a madman because he desperately tried to destroy and kill Jesus, the newborn king. In one sense, this was the work of a king who wanted to destroy a potential rival. But in another sense, this was the work of Satan who wanted to destroy God's Son. So when we are facing difficult times and challenges that are beyond our control and beyond our understanding, we must realize that there is a spiritual conflict in the spiritual realm that we are not able to see. As we look back to the time of Jeremiah, his message is not just a message of grief. His message is a message of hope. Jeremiah says, God hears Rachel's cry. And I want you to know that God hears the cry of those who are suffering in pain and sorrow. It is the turning point of our world. God will come to the rescue of his people. Jeremiah 35 verse 16 and 17 says these amazing words. Thus says the Lord, keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for there is a reward for your work, declares the Lord, and they shall come back from the land of the enemy. There is hope for your future, declares the Lord, and your children shall come back to their own country. Christmas reminds us that God is always at work, and he has a plan to redeem our sorrow. Weeping will be turned to joy. This is the message that the prophet Jeremiah gave it to the people that were suffering. And this is the message that Christmas is given to us. Yes, sorrow is real, but it is not ultimate. Evil is keen, but it will not have the last word. By escaping the evil of Herod, Jesus dealt decisively and victoriously with evil. He started an age-long reversal of the curse that was over humankind, undoing sin and death, stopping Rachel's weeping once forever. Friends, it is worth noting that in Matthew, God really did not spare his son in Bethlehem that day. You see, Jesus was rescued from Herod only to be crucified under Pontius Pilate. In Bethlehem, God's only son escaped from Herod so that on Golgotha he could die, so that the rest of us might escape. No angel, friends, came that afternoon on the cross. God the Father turned his back, and Jesus was not delivered from evil. This is how great God's love is for you and I. There is no amount of abuse or pain or violence that we could bear that Jesus hasn't already borne in his death, in his flesh. He can relate it to everything we could lament and can help us through everything we could lament. The Bible invites us to look beyond our present circumstances and to anticipate a future where God's promises of restoration and healing will be fulfilled. Friends, there is hope for your future because of what Jesus has done, because what Jesus came to do in that first Christmas in the city of Bethlehem. In the long term, Romans 8:18 summons us to see what God will do for those who faithfully love him. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. These are amazing words from the Bible that are giving us hope to endure the pain and the sorrow that we may face during this time. So, as I conclude, let us turn our eyes to the promise of hope found in the birth of Christ. As we celebrate his coming, may we discover the strength to endure, the courage to console, and the assurance that ultimately the story of God's people doesn't end in tragedy, but in triumph. The pain will end. The gates of hell will not prevail. Joy will triumph over sorrow. Merry Christmas to all of you, and may God's blessing be your strength.